organizers, we are paid to be well versed in all aspects of the problem that we're working on, which makes us kind of like rock stars. But our job is not to be that rock star. Our job is to multiply ourselves by letting people use their gifts and experience to be even greater than we are. And my name is Sir Duplechan. And yes, that is really my name. It's not a rap name or there's no money behind it or anything like that. I'm a community organizer in the county of San Bernardino, California. And I was hired with IPS after volunteering as a coalition member because I wanted to help improve the conditions of my community. And I really love what I do. I love being a community organizer. Community organizing isn't for everyone. They say choose something that you would do for free and then figure out how to get paid doing it. And that's the career that you should be on. That way you never have to work another day in your life. And I'd also like to introduce my colleague here, Jennifer Neri.
Hi, everybody. And I also wanted to share a fun fact that Sir was also had mentioned before was that if nobody knew that Barack Obama used to be a community organizer. He was a community organizer
That's
for
right.
5 years. He started in Harlem and in Chicago. So I was really proud to say that I, work in the same career that he also career. So maybe one day I could be president. Who knows? And I'm Jennifer Neri, and I volunteered with my organization, with our coalition, which is ROOT, which stands for Revive Our Old Town, and we're based in Old Town Victorville. And I started volunteering for 2 years before I was hired as a community organizer for that same coalition. And I was the one that knew that coalition best, and it would just see that was perfect fit. And just like Sir said, it's getting paid for doing something that you love, just organizing the community and helping organize those community leaders and showing them how to use their voice to speak up for their community and advocate for the needs of the community. Because without us, without giving the tools that they need, they won't be able to stand on their 2 feet and be able to approach those, very intimidating city stakeholders and city officials and ask for the needs of their community. And I thank you, everybody, for having this opportunity to be able to present to you guys today.
IPS, or the Institute for Public Strategies, is a public health agency specializing in upstream prevention. And I've had the pleasure to lead both Grass Top Coalition and Grassroots Coalitions. And to be honest, I would have to say that Grass Top Coalitions is a walk in the park compared to Grassroots Coalition building. So in this webinar, we're going to be focusing on grassroots organizing. But many of the principles and tools that we'll share, you can use in both. So I'd like to open up our first polling question with what type of community organizing do you have experience with? I'll give you guys a minute to go ahead and answer. Okay, let's see. So we have 51% who have experience in grassroots organizing, 13% in grass tops, and 36% that have experience with both. Interesting. Wow, that's good. So we're going to be speaking to our audience. All right, so why are we here? We are here to share strategies for building and gaining trust with communities. You're going to learn strategies for building and gaining trust with community members that coalesce around a plan. You'll learn approaches in grassroots community organizing that'll elevate your game. You'll also receive some essential tools that will prove to be invaluable in any community, for any community organizer. By the end, you'll learn how to assess the community, recruit for your coalition, and to manage your coalition. And we're going to be touching on some points about knowing the community you serve, keeping your eye on the prize, and giving power, not taking power. Knowing the communities you serve. Before you ever engage the first resident or stakeholder, you have to get to know the community. I wouldn't care if you're community organizing in your own neighborhood where you think you might know a little thing about the community, but you have to find out the community's history. You have to know the demographics like the back of your hand. You can do things like driving assessment. You want to drive through the neighborhoods at different times of the day, the morning, the noon, at night, even on the weekends, and really get a feel for the community before you ever engage your first community member. We'll be sharing with you a site characteristics chart or form that will help you look into this type of data that most people wouldn't even think of offhand. Like on this form, on the site characteristic form, they're going to ask you questions like for example, under the geography section, it's going to ask you what type of temperature or climate that motivates people to go outside. You know, is there still street lights? Is there street lights that make people feel safe? It's going to ask you questions like, is it walkable? Do they even have sidewalks? Are there gated communities? Under the population and demographics section, they ask things like, are there more rental units than owned residences? You know, so these are those intricate questions that you want to know before you even enter the community. These are the things that you have to know. On the neighborhood scouting report on the community that I organize in, it said that we have the highest amount of single mothers in the nation. Initially, I was blown away by the statistic. I said, wow, really? And but then I started to remember that from some of the research I did, some of the data that I pulled, that this is a largely immigrant community. So first of all, that tells me that most of the breadwinners in these families, they work under the table. And then secondly, a lot of the women in the community receive public assistance. And if you're on public assistance, you can't have a man who lives in the home. So it wasn't the fact that there was a lot of single mothers, or it was the number one city in the whole nation for single mothers, but it was the fact that they just weren't being reported like that. You know, so it's good to have an idea and a sense of the community before you even step foot into the community. And so that takes us to our first step, which is data collection. And we're going to be talking a little bit about quantitative data and qualitative data. See, most of us are familiar with quantitative data, like it has to do with things being counted, things were being measured, expressed using numbers, like the fact that there's 20 cookies in a pack of Pillsbury Breaking Bakes. You know, I think I have a problem with that because why do I know that? Kind of addicted since the pandemic, being stuck in the house. But most people are not familiar with qualitative data. Now, this qualitative data is more descriptive, it's conceptual, it's categorized based on traits and characteristics. But this is the gold that you find when doing grassroots community organizing. I call it gold because you can only get this valuable information by putting in the work. This is the type of information that our elected officials will give their firstborn to have access to. This is real life, boots on the ground information you get firsthand. For example, I was talking to my coalition about the conditions of the streets. And one of the community members said they need to do something about the curb at the Circle K entrance. And another member stood up and said, yeah, I broke my bumper when I drove through that entrance just the other day. And next thing you know, they got to call in neighbors, they got to call in cousins, they got to call in little Kiki, and everyone was coming to our meeting, bringing their cars so we could take pictures, so that way we can show these elected officials or the powers that be who have the power to actually make the changes, pictures of their vehicles that are actually being damaged from the entrance of that Circle K gas station. And see, there's many ways that, or many tactics that we use to collect quantitative data. And I just like to share a few of them with you. We have census data. Census data is something the census is something that's done every 10 years. In fact, we just had one last year. I had the pleasure of working as one of the collectors in the community that I serve. I volunteered for that community in order to get to know my community even more. But it can be used to get vital demographic information. Also, you can use surveys. I just like to caution you to make sure that you try not to over survey your population. because you may be having a survey going on, but there's probably 20 other organizations that's running surveys at the same time. And you also want to be aware of the sample size that you're collecting, because that will tell you how reliable your survey information is. And just one other word to the wise: try not to leave open-ended questions to your surveys, because it makes processing the data that you collected a nightmare. As far as reports go, you can find there's millions of organizations that provide information in reports. Some of the best ones that I found, some of the best resources, if you're not familiar with them, is City Health Dashboard. The website is right there on the slide. Please make sure you take note of that. You could also get some really great information from your sheriff's or police department websites. And another great resource I found is Neighborhood Scout Report. One of the reports that I found that I really appreciated, kind of changed the perspective of even many of the coalition members that I work with, was the life expectancy by zip code report. When my coalition members found out how much shorter their life expectancy was compared to that of their neighbors, it made people get more serious about the work that we were doing. Let's talk a little bit about that gold, which we call qualitative data. There's many ways to collect this qualitative data also. In every interaction, you should be fishing for qualitative data. I don't care how short that conversation is, who you're talking to, whether it be a stakeholder, a resident, whoever it is, you want to be fishing for that qualitative data. And we're going to be sharing some tools with you to show you how you can document that data, because that's something that is very important. You want to document everything. Some good examples of ways to collect quantitative data is door knocking. Door knocking is when you go to someone's house and you simply just knock on the door and you ask them some questions that's going to collect some qualitative data. But your ultimate goal for door knocking is to set up a one-on-one. And as you see on the slide, I have the most effective is one-on-ones. You want to have a one-on-one with someone. And in fact, let me explain to you what a one-on-one is. It's just a meeting. But the thing is, you want to make sure that you never have one-on-ones, just one-on-one. You want to make sure that you have a community member with you, because once again, it's about building power. You're not that rock star. We want to make sure to build our residents up. And plus, it's good to have someone there for safety reasons and also for accountability, because you don't want to misrepresent the community that you're serving. And as an organizer, you want to make sure that we're going to talk about some other things later, but we want to make sure that you do environmental scans also, because you want to create a baseline that you can begin with that'll help you track the success of your work, and also community forums. During this presentation, we're going to be giving you some tools, like I mentioned before. You're going to be getting a one-on-one template, something really simple that you can use when you're going on these meetings, and you can just fill it out. Jennifer will tell you a little bit more about it later. That site characteristic tool that I talked about earlier, we're going to make sure that you receive that in an email, and also an audience tool, which we'll talk about later on in this presentation.
Keeping your eyes on the prize. This is about recruitment and how to get recruit members to your coalition. Who do you start with? Your coalition should be a mix of community members, residents, business owners, community partners, and anyone who feels a connection to your cause. This is really important to have a variety or a mix of community members, because everybody brings their own perspective, a unique perspective to the table. And this also helps build your base of coalition members.
Absolutely. And I just
so we're trying to go ahead, sir.
No, I just would also like to say, when building your coalition, you really want to utilize the warm handoff. You want to make sure that you ask the person that you just talked to introduce you to the next person that you're going to talk to.
Mm-hmm. And it's also important to talk to everybody that you see on the streets, because that simple hello or how are you can turn into a 10-minute conversation, which can also lead to a one-on-one. So it's important that when you speak to everybody on the streets, from the person walking by, even the a homeless individual, because those people can also introduce you to other people that might be interested in your coalition. And for all you know, that can turn into a lifelong friend, or even like a one-on-one. So make sure write down everything, everyone, and contact information, so you can set that one-on-one up at a later time.
Absolutely. And I just wanted
And
to give
also,
one.
one more thing,
Mhm.
I have one more point. It's also important to share a story, share a personal story with individuals, because that also helps them to relate to you as an individual, and not just somebody that's out there trying to sell them something.
Mhm. That's wonderful. I just wanted to give this piece of information. I believe it's a secret to coalition building. So write it down. You guys ready? If you feed them, they will come. So just remember that one.
And that works with everyone. Meet residents where they are. One way to meet residents where they are is by volunteering at the local food banks, or visit the local churches. You can also talk to parents while they're waiting for their kids at the schools, and small businesses. Small businesses are really important to visit, because you get to know that business owner, you get to know their employees, and they can also join your coalition, especially when it comes to recruiting, because you want that variety of mix of individuals that will help build that base, like I said before. And also, you never know who they know. You might end up meeting somebody, they might end up knowing somebody that might be a really strong member later on. And also, you have to be consistent. So being consistent is also going to help you build that trust within the community that you're trying to work in. And then having one-on-ones with key stakeholders, setting up one-on-ones, like Sir had mentioned before, like in public spaces. And because this is going to also, it's for safety precautions. Also, it builds your credibility if you bring a community member with you, because you're showing them how to set up one-on-ones and how to conduct them. And so it's really important that you set up these one-on-ones, because these one-on-ones are going to be helping you establish your coalition. And also, when you meet with someone for the first time during a one-on-one, you ask them for a friend, a neighbor, contact information, that someone that they think that might be also interested, even if they might not be, and they might have a little spark of curiosity. Get that information, because that also builds your credibility, and we call this the warm handoff. So they can also introduce you to somebody that will be interested in your coalition. Also, this is another way, like if you're helping a resident with resources that they might need, like if it's whether it be housing or rental assistance, you should also do that warm handoff. When you want to, don't just give them that information, be like, here you go, call this number. If you know that person personally, you introduce them personally, so that they have that connection just like you have. And it also, that's another way of building credibility, and also building the trust of the residents.
Absolutely. I just want to mention something about meeting in public. I'm a stickler for this one, especially now after the experience I had. I had a coalition member that, or actually, it wasn't a coalition member at the time, but I set up a one-on-one because a resident was telling me that they were dealing with pest problems in their apartment. And they wanted me to come to their home, and actually have the one-on-one in their home so I can see for myself. And when I went into their home to have this one-on-one, it was worse than I could ever imagine. Like while I was sitting there, I was watching, critters crawl across the floor, and then he showed me his curtains, and it was just like infested with bed bugs and things like that. And from that point on, I always meet in a public place. If it's a pest problem, I tell them send me pictures.
Yeah, you don't want to take anything that home to your family. So, and here's the one-on-one tool that we were explaining to earlier. This will be very helpful for you when you're having your one-on-ones, because sometimes it's like, how do you start off the conversation? Where do you start first? So this is a guide to help you with that. You also, it helps you document the name and who they referred by, your name also. And then you kind of go into asking that resident or community member, what do they see the problems are in that community? What do they see are the assets, and also what do they visualize for the future of their community? And so kind of gets your, the conversations flowing. And also at the end, that's when you can ask for that warm handoff for someone that you can also get back to at a later time, so you can set up a one-on-one with the next person and so on. And so this is very helpful. And then also it helps document the problems of the community, from the community. So if you want to share that information later on with other stakeholders or city officials, you have that documented in black and white. And here you go. You must be completely dedicated to building and gaining the trust of the residents. This is where I spoke earlier about consistency. You have to be consistent. You visit the same locations on a regular basis, whether say you go to the local community center every single Monday at 12 o'clock. Make sure you do that consistently, or even several times a week, because the more they see you, the more that they will begin to trust you, and they'll see that you're consistent. And also gives you an opportunity to reach out to the community members, and also to get to know that community that you're working in. Because if you're there more often, that builds that trust. And also, if your word is your bond, so if somebody asks you for something, make sure you don't offer them help that you can't really follow through with. So if you can't do it, don't say you will. And also just make sure you don't make promises that you can't keep, because that will kind of like just squash all that trust that you built. And so it's really important to be consistent. Do you have anything to add to that, sir?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, only other tidbit that was wonderful is just be slow to speak and quick to listen.
Hmm. Yeah, that's important. Always have that open ear.
Mm-hmm.
And here are some 12 must know stakeholders. I mean, there's the multitude of stakeholders, which also could be city officials, city council members, but it's really important to build your base by your community partnerships, whether it be the school districts, the schools, the principals. They're really helpful when you have like a bulk amount of surveys you have to do. So if you get to know the schools, you get to know the principals, you'll be comfortable asking them like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you distribute this survey to all the parents at your school in a timely manner, so you can get those surveys done, or you're gonna have a lot of coalition members doing a lot of door knocking. And but because this is where we found it helpful when we had to do annual surveys, and we had like 500 surveys to collect, and we ended up
Wow.
collecting more surveys than what our goal was, because we had all these schools that were on board that are willing to help us distribute these surveys. And also with the police captains, it's good to know your local law enforcement, because that law enforcement is the one that everybody depends on in the area. And if your community that you're working in doesn't trust law enforcement, or has those trust issues, you can let the captain know. Let them. We went through 3 captains in our organization, in our coalition, and the third captain that we have now, as soon as he came into office, we set up one-on-one with him. We invited him to our meetings, and he's a great captain. He's very understanding, and when you need something, you're more comfortable to have that ask. Like we put on movies in the park. I asked the captain if he could send out some officers to not just for safety reasons, because the park that we were having the movies in the park at was in a darker area of the city, and a lot of people weren't attending as much as they were at our other movies at the park, at a different park. So we thought, well, maybe people would feel safer if we had some law enforcement here. So we reached out to the captain. The captain sent 2 officers, and the officers were there. They had assisted with our raffles and before the movie. They even stayed throughout the movies and did some proactive policing, and they helped us clean up at the end. And it was really helpful to have those connections. So we appreciate that from that captain. And you can't do that otherwise, unless you really build that relationship. And then even with local nonprofits that are also organizing in your area, it's good to build that partnership with them, because when there's grant opportunities that are available, um, they'll look to you for a partnership, and you can look for them also, or reach out to them, because we partnered with another organization, and we planted fruit trees, and we did it at several different locations throughout the last couple of years. And when they had received a grant and they couldn't plant the trees where they needed to, he reached out to us and was like, hey, you guys need some fruit trees? We're like, yes. And we were more than happy to welcome those trees. And take them in and plant them at another location in our area. So building that relationship is really important. And also, you don't want to step on others that are organizing in your area, like step on their toes, or you rather, it's better to partner with them instead of, starting replicating the wheel when the real wheel's already spinning. Might as well just join in and jump on. So that also is really helpful. And then even getting to know your local media. If you have everyone has a local paper or even Facebook, that when you get to know the local media and the reporters, you can invite them to share your wins and to share it with the public, because you want as many people to know about what's going on in the community that you're serving. So I think that's really important. And there's so many others stakeholders, but there's a few here that you can see that are really important to reach out to and get to know the people that are also working in the community that you're organizing in.
Absolutely. You really want to make sure to have one-on-ones with each of these stakeholders and let them know why you're in their neighborhood, what you're doing, what your plans and goals are. And just another thing that you want to do is in those one-on-ones, you want to always ask for a future favor. You want to ask them something that you think that they might be able to provide. Like if you're meeting, say, with a school district or something, you might want to ask them if they have a meeting place that you can use maybe once a month, or you might want to ask them if you're having a community forum, if they can provide the chairs or tables, but I like to call these people my hookups. These are the people that you can go to when you need something.
And even churches too. Churches usually always have large gathering spaces, like where they have their catechism classes. And if you need a large gathering space to put on a community forum, it's really great to have that relationship. So when you have that ask, they're more likely to say yes, and then you can also build on that.
Yeah, that's a really good hookup.
Mm-hmm. And here's a bonus tip for y'all. Just using the good old-fashioned telephone to make connections with individuals and just do a wellness call to see how everyone's doing. I mean, someone might be at a dark point in their life, especially during this pandemic where you can't really go out and socialize, like, especially if you're a really social person like I am, you who love being out there just talking to everybody. Like my kids are like, Mom, you talk to everyone. I'm like, well, I like to talk. I'm social. So I go in, and also being a community organizer, that's a great feature to have, because it makes you more welcoming and people see you like as being jolly. So you might reach, if you do those phone calls, you might reach somebody that might not be in their best mental fitness at that time, and you might be able to brighten their day and bring some sunshine to it just by that one phone call, just seeing how they're doing and just checking on them, because it's really important that we check on our members and everyone that at this time, just to make sure that they're doing okay.
Mm-hmm. And it goes a long way for building that trust. The fact that you took the time out of your day just to check on them, especially like during this past pandemic.
Yes. And partners equal power. And then who are they and why do we need them? So this is going back to a little bit what we spoke to about the community partnerships, but these people are like professional organizations or even individuals with an interest that the community you serve. And also they provide resources and connect you to networks. So if you build that relationship with that community partner, eventually they will introduce you to their networks. There's the people that you may not know, and that can also assist you later on with your organizing or your organization, even the problem that you're trying to work on. Word of mouth is the best way to build your network, and without your community partners, it's really unreachable without doing, because that person will get you that foot in that door that you might not have otherwise, which you have just been some average Joe. But with that community partner, you're somebody. You're somebody important, and and they want to share you with them. So it's great to build those community partnerships.
Mm-hmm. I just like to share a quick experience. The coalition I work with in San Bernardino County, they had the idea to create a food pop-up, a walk-up food pop-up during the pandemic, because most other food pop-ups were drive-through. and they recognized that there were a lot of people that didn't have cars. So how are they supposed to go and get their food, especially in their neighborhood? And so we were able to reach out to our local food collaborative, and there was a long list of community organizations that wanted to be part of that coalition because because they wanted access to that food. But because of our partnerships, we were able to fast track and get to the front of the line to be able to pick up food and be able to serve the community and start our walk up food pop up. And it was wonderful. And it would have never happened by going through normal channels, but it only happened because we had established partnerships in advance.
Yes, and those partnerships are so important. And here's another tip. Give a little, take a little. Support your partner's endeavors as you want them to support yours. This is important. Like when you have those community partnerships, that you share their flyers, you share their events, because they will share yours, and they'll also be part of those events as well. And so it's really important to support your partners, and also share them on your social media pages, and they will share yours because they have access to people you might not otherwise have access to, and vice versa. So it's really important to support your partners, and even if you see you're out there in the community, or you come across a grant opportunity, something where your partner is like a perfect fit for it, it's important to share those with them in a timely manner, so they can also be able to apply for those opportunities, and they will love you for it, because it might have slipped right past them, they might not have seen it or not have been aware of it. And if you don't share it and they find out later on that it's something they could have could have been a part of, I think you'll feel really bad for not saying something earlier. So I think it's really important just to share those opportunities with ones that you see are the perfect fit for these opportunities. And this is the audience worksheet, which who will benefit from the data that you're collecting. This sheet here will help you with the different topics and questions of interest, and it has also like the residents. But this is when it comes to collecting your data that Sir has spoke to earlier. These are the people that might be interested in the data you're collecting. And so if with these paperwork and all this information, there's going to be a lot of people that are actually a lot of organizations are going to find this information helpful, which they might not otherwise be able to obtain, because they might not have the people backing it to do the footwork that you're doing. They might not have those people, or the human force, or like the manpower, human power, that's what it was, human power to go out and do what you're doing. So if when you're building those connections with your community partners, and they know about what you're doing and what surveys you're conducting, what information you're gathering, they might be interested in also obtaining that information from you. Did you have anything to add, sir?
Yeah, I just wanted to explain a little bit about how this form actually works. As you see in the first column, you have your social determinants, whether it be health, crime. In the second column, you have your questions of interest. And the way that works is that's all the information that you're gathering from all the conversations you're having with these one-on-ones. But even more importantly, the list of stakeholders who might benefit from this information you have across the top. We have only about 6 of them listed here, but you can put all 12 of those stakeholders across the top of your form. And then as you're asking those questions, as you're getting them this information, you just put a check mark under the category or the community stakeholder that would benefit from this information. Like, for example, we have, is the water safe to drink? But as we noted, and by indicating with an X in each box, that the residents, partner organizations, the city, the county, school districts, the water district, chamber of commerce, all those would be interested in knowing whether or not the water is safe to drink. And this form will also be emailed to you.
Keeping your eye on the prize and determining goals. This is really important when you're trying to figure out what goal, or actually what problem you're going to be working on as your coalition, or with your coalition.
Definitely. As we just transitioned kind of from the recruitment process, we're now going to go into more of the management and putting together your goals for your coalition.
And determining your goals. There are many useful tools that you can use with your coalition to determine your goals. You have the bubble diagram, the summary of problem analysis, and the Midwest Academy strategy chart. Okay, this is the bubble diagram, and why this is the why. Okay, why is this a problem, and why here? So here you can start with your problem in the center, like the problem that you're going to be working on, which there could be multiple problems, but and here you can like dissect like resident concerns could be a center one, and then also you can list all the concerns around that, and then go into why those are concerns. Why is it a problem? And it eventually helps you to get to the root cause of the problems that are plaguing the community you're working in.
That's right. I like to call this the kindergarten strategy, because you kind of like go back to a kindergarten. You just keep asking why, and that's going to push you to your upstream solutions. Because as residents, a lot of times they'll look at a problem and they'll want to put a band-aid on that problem. But as community organizers, we have to prepare them to look upstream, look at the environmental change that's going to affect the entire community. We want to fix a problem from the root, from the source, not just a symptom of the problem. In my community, the way we use this chart, and this should be the first, pretty much the first, one of the first charts you use with your coalition, because it's going to help them understand the process. It's going to help them understand how to look upstream. We had chose inequitable investments in infrastructure for our major center problem. But and what that entails is that when we got to that because they were saying that the streets were bad. They were saying that there was flooding. They were saying that there's no street lights. They were saying that there were no sidewalks. And so we identified that as inequitable investment in infrastructure. And we said, and so when you go to the why is that happening? And we said it was happening because insufficient funds for investment across the community that we were serving. And so we said, why is that happening here? Which is the black dots that you're looking at on the screen. And they said one of the reasons could be, does the city have necessary staff? Another contributing factor could be Proposition 13. Maybe there's not enough money that's being collected, enough taxes being collected through property tax because of Prop 13. And in our community, we have a lot of older homes. Maybe it was the systems of checks and balances that they don't have in our city government, or maybe it's just the mismanagement of funds. But as you can see how you can get further and further upstream to identify the source of the problem.
Yes, and also you have to remember that everything that you need to organize is in the center. I mean, is in your community. So you're gonna have a lot of different perspectives of what the problem is. So this will also help you to decide what the problem is that your community is gonna work on. So like ours was we had contributing factors on safety. So we decided to focus on safety, and we had lighting as a contributing factor, abandoned buildings, lack of police presence, and nuisance and illegal behavior from the homeless. And then you dissect that to the why. Okay, why is lighting a problem? Because people don't feel safe when it's dark. And then why don't they feel safe? Because it's dark. Just different things like abandoned buildings. Why are they a problem? Because they people squatting and the homeless squatting, and it's somebody could get hurt in these abandoned buildings. Kids can play when they can. So that's also a safety issue. And another one was a lack of police presence. Was how would that be a contributing factor to safety? Well, we knew that if you call the police, there was long response time. And there was no substation. There was a substation before it was it was no longer there, and so a lot of people felt like, oh well, if we just had a substation, everything will be better. But if we did put a substation, how will that make it better? And you keep asking that why until you get to that root cause, and then that will help you eventually to help set your goals, short term and long term.
Mm-hmm. Great. I just wanted to mention also another problem that I would run into with a lot of coalition members is they would think throwing money at the problem would solve it. And so you can, I use this as a rule of thumb. If money was not a problem and you were able to put as much money as you want to to whatever the problem that they're suggesting, would that fix the problem? And 9 times out of 10, it wouldn't. And so that's why you can keep on going deeper, keep on going back to that why.
Mm-hmm. And here's the summary of problem analysis. Do you have sufficient data to support your claim? This form here will help you with diluting that problem, and also it's also a document that's gonna, you can also show later on to the city stakeholders and city officials, like, hey, this is what we feel are the contributing, well, we know are the contributing factors, and the related local conditions, and also that's the data to validate what's going on in that neighborhood or that community that you're organizing in. And it's something that it's built and made by the community that you're serving. So it's not all just your point of view or perspective, it's everybody in that community's perspective. And this is also one that you can use when you're meeting on your one-on-ones, and to back up that and support your claims of what's going on with the issues in your neighborhood or the neighborhood you're organizing in. Did you have anything to add, sir?
No, that's it. That's it. Yeah, and they tie in together. That's the one thing. After you complete your bubble diagram, you move your contributing factors from your bubble diagram over to your summary of problems analysis.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to start with the bubble diagram.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Midwest Academy strategy chart, which also it's after choosing your issue, you fill in this chart as a guide to developing strategies. Here you have like your goals, your organizational considerations, constituents, and also different tactics that you can use, and also the it helps you to plan and organize your goals to where you have different contributing factors, and then you can have strategies that will help you to achieve your long-term goal. Also, it gives you a form that you can write down like your related activities you're going to do to achieve that goal in that one strategy. Like the coalition that I was organizing in and was part of, we had different strategies. We had 4 strategies. We had one was to improve the community connectedness. Another one was to improve the physical image of Old Town. And we had the third was to reduce nuisance and illegal behavior in Old Town, and also to strengthen the relationship with law enforcement. And so we used that. Those are our strategies. And also we had to think of different activities that we can do to achieve that goal for that strategy, which our goal was to beautify the area. We end up painting murals, and also that was a one that worked for 2 of our strategies, which it helped beautify that area that we're working in, and also it built the community connectedness because we invited the community to come out and help paint, and so they would have that feeling of ownership over this mural. And since we've done this, like we did it 2 years ago, we painted it. It has not been vandalized at all. And there was another mural that was painted recently, like that was by an individual artist, and it has already been vandalized. And we're like, well, see, if you get the community involved, they have that ownership over it, and they're less likely to destroy it, and they kind of look after it. And it was so awesome to just have people like, what are you guys doing? Like, hey, you want to come help us paint.
Wow.
And just tying them into that event that we were doing. It was so awesome because first they were like, oh no, and then they used to walk by a couple more times until they finally came out and volunteered to help paint, because it just that curiosity got the best of them, and also gave us an opportunity to see other issues that were going on in the neighborhood that we can work on at a later time.
Awesome. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. I just want to say, for the sake of time, this is the type of form that you can use at every coalition meeting to keep people focused on the task at hand. You want to keep your eyes on the prize, because on this form, you can list your long-term goals, your midterm goals, and your short-term goals, and the process that you're taking to reach those goals.
And it's also helpful to remind your members also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're getting to our next topic. Review your goals often. Reviewing your goals at every meeting helps new members and keeps the group focused. When you have your plan, after you set your plan in black and white, and you're able to share it with your coalition members, it's good to to use to keep them on task, because there's so many times that you might have a new member come in with their own agenda and their own problems and issues, and you can always have that your form to look back on and be like, hey, yeah, that's a big issue, but right now, this is our goal, these are our strategies, and you can actually use it as a guide to keep everybody on task, because you don't it's so easy to get especially with short-term wins, to kind of get like swayed away from your long-term goal, which could be of the upstream approach of like policy, like with one, for example, one short win could be a community cleanup, like the residents could be complaining about empty lots being full of trash all the time. So yeah, a short-term goal or win would be to clean up that lot, or getting the community together to come clean up that lot. But do you want to be doing that every month for the rest of your life or for years? Or do you want to establish a policy, or have that city, establish a policy where you can get prosecuted or fined for illegal dumping? So you don't have to worry about having to always clean up that lot every other month or every year. So that helps you to and also it's great to celebrate that short-term win. But that you're having it in writing in black and white is better. So you can also, bring back your members if they get, distracted, or if when new members come in, you have a guide to show them like, hey, this is our goals, and this is what we're planning on doing in this area.
Giving power, not taking power. Mobilizing to create change. Um, this goes back to the whole purpose of this webinar. The one thing that I want to make sure that us as community organizers get is that it's about giving power and not taking power. You can be the coach, but you must allow the residents to play. You want to build leaders by teaching them how to fish, not just giving them a fish so they eat for a day. As a community organizer, your greatest superpower is knowing how to delegate. You want to be able to, and that's how you create sustainability. Because a lot of times we're contracted. We're only in the community for a set period of time, but you want the work to continue. You want the residents to be able to take that information and all the skills that you've taught them to be able to advocate for other problems that they see in their community. You want to make sure to get your community in action. It's not just about the planning process, but you want to actually put those everything you plan into action. You want to have your residents create your agendas. No matter how small the task you think it may be, have the coalition members do it, and that builds up their power. And you want to show them the steps on how to do it. You want to show them how to set up meetings with decision makers. You want to teach them how to write talking points to speak at city council. You want to give them tools that they can use to frame their thoughts. You want to make sure to provide the training that they need. You'd be surprised on how many people don't know how government really works, but they're just too embarrassed to admit it. It's things like that that will make you have a strong and sustainable coalition. You want to put all the things that you plan into practice. And like Jennifer said, to celebrate those small victories. Take every opportunity you can to celebrate, because us as organizers know that change is slow. And in this popcorn society, where everything is instantaneous, it's hard to keep the attention of people on one task.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Well said. And also, the most effective way to create change is by organizing people, especially at the grassroots level. And the goal is to inspire residents to build their neighborhood and to show them how to use their voice to advocate for themselves and the needs of their community. So, with that said, I just want to remind everyone that everything you need to organize is right there in the neighborhood that you're organizing in and working. And so you just need to get out there and allow the relationships that you're building with the community members to assist and guide you through this process. So it's best just to, like I said before, speak to everybody, and also to teach your coalition, because there's a lot of people that have never attended a city council meeting. So they don't know how important it is to speak before the city council, and also the strength in numbers. When you build up your coalition, it's important that everybody at once go and speak at these city council members, because your number will be impressive, and also that'll make a difference when it comes to organizing and also getting the attention of the city officials. One of the first meetings we attended with I think it was just about 11 people, and my youngest son, he was 10 years old, attended. He spoke before the city council, and that made
Wow.
a big impression. Which we even had city council members coming up to us after the meeting just to speak to us on the issues that we were talking about, and we were able to bring that attention back to the area that we're working in, which was once forgotten, and now it's like the main priority of the city, because now there's so many things going on, and it wasn't for us organizing and speaking about these council meetings that got their attention.
Wow. That's extraordinary. We have one last poll that we would like you guys to take in regards to organizing. What is your rule of thumb for sending reminder emails? Do you send it 2 or more weeks prior to meeting? Do you send it 1 week prior to meeting, or 1 day before the meeting, or the day before the meeting? So how long, how often, or actually, how long do you usually wait before you send your reminder meeting to your coalition members?
And there's no right or wrong answer either. So.
All right, and let's see. We have the winner is 1 week prior to the meeting. 65% of you guys said that you send out your reminder at least 1 week prior to the meeting. Personally, if there was all of the above, I would probably say that, because I like to send out reminder meeting as often as possible, because it creates a sense of urgency. It creates a sense of importance to the people who receive it.
I have a comment to make about that too. And when you send your emails, it's great to kind of include a call to action. So like, if even it could be like, so what do you think, or is there anybody else that we can, invite that that might be able to attend, just to get a response back from the recipient, to let kind of gives you an idea if they received your email or not, or even if they read it. So so there's no right or wrong answer depending on how often your coalition meets. So like, we used to meet once a week, and that was really consistent. So I would give my reminders usually the day of. But if you meet once a month, it just depends on your coalition and how much communication you build. But to communicate is the most important thing. Is always keep those lines of communication open.
Outstanding. All right, and these are final thoughts. We have went through assessment, recruitment, and management of coalitions. Hopefully you got to know, first you must know the community that you serve. You want to keep your eyes on the prize. You want to give power and don't take a power, and utilize different tools for operating during the pandemic, and use creativity.
Yes, we all know that right now at this time, it's really hard to organize the community when you can't do the door knocking. You can't be out there in the community and just talking to people because everything's closed. So this is a perfect time to utilize those community partners to share your information and share your events, and you do the same. So thank you. And we'll get through this trying time also.
Yes. Well, thank you all for attending. We're next going to get ready to open up our question and answer session. We only have about 4 minutes left, so we want to get to it. This is our contact information. It'll be also emailed to you.
Thank you so much, sir and Jennifer. I'll be very quick. I have added a link into the chat section. If you can take our post-webinar survey, and this just provides us feedback on this webinar and helps us in our planning process for future webinars. And I also just want to point out that IPS provides technical assistance and training in all of our core competencies. So if you're interested in hands-on training or technical assistance, please feel free to contact us at info@publicstrategies.org. And so now I will get into the questions. We have some really great ones. Jennifer, when you talked about the 12 key stakeholders, you talked a lot about law enforcement and how it's, you've really been able to grow that relationship in your coalition. What do you do? How do you address it when folks are have that fear of law enforcement?
It's a lot of people have the fear of law enforcement. It's better to, you know, invite the person that might be fearful, and then invite them to attend the meeting with the captain. Like, so if they can also see that's also a person, that captain's a person just like you and I, and they're more able to see law enforcement behind the uniform as a person, not just someone that's authoritative. And also, I mean, so the most thing I think is just inviting either them to attend a meeting at the police station or the captain to come out to your meeting space, and then just to get to know your members and to get to know your coalition and what drives you guys, and also gives an opportunity for your members to see him as an individual and as a person, and that he's not some bad guy or a bad person. But just like with everybody else, law enforcement has their good and they have their bad, and that's, I mean, but just trying to build that relationship with the community and law enforcement was a difficult task and still is, but just trying to work as one is really beneficial, and just seeing them as people.
Wonderful, thank you. And sir, I'm going to pose this question to you because I know that you started to connect to residents during COVID last year when it first started. So do you have any tips on how to engage and make connections with new community members during this time that we're in, when, you know, going door to door isn't necessary, it's not, you know, it's kind of frowned upon these days. So how do you do it? What do you do?
Well, you have to rely heavily on social media. Great resource is to make sure that you're present. You have a presence on all major social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. And make sure you join groups on Facebook. Facebook has a group for almost everything. You can put a search and just search the name of your city, and it'll give you a list of a lot of groups that you can join that are localized to the community that you're serving. And that'll give you a great chance to meet a lot of the residents. And it's always, you always want to utilize that warm handoff, because when you utilize a warm handoff, that allows you to gain all those years of relationship that other person had with the new individual. So instantly, you know, you're best friends because you were referred by a best friend.
Awesome, thank you. A couple more questions, and I know it's 11, so I will be mindful of everyone's time, but there are a couple burning questions that I'd really like to get to. So if you can stay, both of you, I'd appreciate it. While volunteering at another organization, is it appropriate to recruit for your own organization?
I can answer that one. I think it's yes, take that opportunity, because I mean, there's no limit on how many organizations you can belong to. And if that person can be an asset to your organization, why not? I mean, they can also share your information and also be part of yours, and then it just makes it like to a greater, bigger, happy family. And also it's like that person might end up being a really strong member or coalition member that can carry your message, and also help with community leaders, because you eventually want to establish as many community leaders as possible, because they're going to help with the sustainability when you're no longer there in that community organizing. So they will help to carry the message on and make it last for as long as possible.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I've had to deal with this too, but the one rule of thumb that I always have is transparency. You want to make sure to have the consent of the organizer, because you don't want to step on anyone's toes. Like, for example, we got access to the call list for a major church, you know, in our community. But, you know, and I asked them, is it okay if we talk about our program or what we're trying to do? And he said, not at this time, because we were supposed to just be calling to schedule food pickups. And so he said, not at this time, but I will give you a list that you can call, but I don't want to mix the two, which was totally okay. And he was a man of his word, and he did give us his entire church calling list to be able to call, but it just wasn't at that particular time.
I think that would be depend on the situation, like Sir said too. But I mean, you can always you know, share the information, but too, I think that to utilize every opportunity, it would be your best option also.
Thank you, guys. And one last question. So when going back to those tools for planning your goals and creating your action plan, how often does, well, first, who completes the chart? Is it the community organizer or the committee? And then the second part to that question, how often does the root cause put the solution out of reach, and what do you do then?
I can answer some of that one. It's you come up to, you strategize as a group. So it's the coalition, because you don't want it to be your perspective, or you writing it or coming down together, because it is the community that you're working in. It should be them are the ones that are coming up with the problems and the solutions. You're just assisting them. You're assisting them with organizing it and getting and accessing all those tools and showing them how to put it all together and how to come up with those strategies and those action plans. So all you're doing is just being there. Letting them use you as a tool to help discover exactly what they're going to work on and the issues at hand. And but sir, did you want anything to add to that?
Yes, as a community organizer, I usually do a lot of the work beforehand. Like I'll go through a bubble diagram on my own. So that way, when I am facilitating it with my coalition, I've already thought out a lot of the roadblocks, and so that way I can help assist them or help guide them to get past those roadblocks in a lot easier way. And as far as what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
It was just, sorry, let me look back to it. So what happens when the solution is too far out of reach? Like the root cause puts the solution too far out of reach. What do you do then?
I say you re-strategize. You re-strategize on how to get, start with the short wins, start with the possible, which can eventually lead you to the impossible. And but too, like you come with half-baked solutions. So like if you get stuck, your coalition gets stuck on like trying to figure out action plans or ways to get to that solution or to for that goal, you come already like prepared, just so you won't be stuck there trying to strategize on, okay, what are we going to do next, or what's the next steps. You kind of come prepared with that to assist your coalition with their goals and also the action steps or action plans that's going to get them to reach their goal. But we haven't came across any unreachable goals so far. I mean, some of them are really hard, but which I think the biggest one that people work on is homelessness, and that's something that's really hard.
Yeah, I agree. I don't believe in impossible. I believe in us being able to do what we can do. But like when you're looking at something like racism, it may seem impossible to ever actually solve that problem. But we can all do our part, and as at a community level, we can strategize and formulate plans to try to eradicate it from our community. We can look at it and we can address it and we can attack it. We can partner with other organizations, whether it be a national organization or a federal organization, something that will move that ball forward. And it may be, like I said, a task that we might not be able to accomplish in this lifetime, but by us making our plans and empowering other people and not relying on our own selves, giving power, not taking power, that will keep the ball moving forward. And eventually one day we will achieve that goal.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir and Jennifer, so much for your time today. I know I've learned a lot and I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who stuck around for an extra 6 minutes. We really appreciate it. All the webinar slides, the PowerPoint, the tools that were mentioned will be sent out in a follow-up email. And the recording of this webinar will be posted on our YouTube page. All of that will be sent out, all those links. So thank you guys so much for coming. And please feel free to join us next month when we talk about the art of storytelling when it comes to media advocacy.
And I just have a quick comment. If there was any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, we included our emails on the slides. So anybody feel more than welcome to reach out to us and ask those questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you out and try to answer to the best of our ability.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.